This is a Brawl Network production.
Tigers with the ball, less than 13 to play. Harris on the baseline, Porter to the block, puts it up, Hierarchy shot, jammed down by Jeremiah.
Mr. Tillman is on the scene, and the Tigers back within a point.
Here's Josie, got the first down, breaks free, midfield, foot race for the end zone, 20, 10, hello, touchdown.
You're listening to the Mizzou Brawl Podcast.
Brennan out of the shotgun, 20 seconds to play. Takes the snap, move in the pocket, right being chased, throws it underneath, incomplete! Start drinking it, folks! Start drinking!
Here are your hosts, Nate Sanchez and Chris George.
Welcome back for another episode of the Mizzou Brawl Podcast. With me, as always, is my co-host, Chris George. How are you doing, Chris?
Doing good tonight.
So as me and Chris are recording this, it is currently Thursday night, the eve of maybe the best day in maybe the best day of the sports year. Tomorrow we have the first day of March Madness. I guess tonight we have the first four games, and it is a little bit weirder. I guess for logistical reasons, they moved it back a day because normally it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Now this year it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So, whatever. We're here, and the first round is tomorrow, and it's maybe the best day of the year in terms of sports. A lot of people are taking sick days tomorrow. A lot of people just time off on their jobs, me included. And so it's just a great time. And this year is a little bit more exciting because the Mizzou Tigers are involved in the tournament and are coming off of, an SEC tournament that I don't know if it was underwhelming because, they won a game they were supposed to, and then they lost to a team that's better than them. But yeah, initial thoughts on the SEC tournament, Chris, before we jump into the big tournament.
It went exactly as I expected. Georgia game was a little too close for comfort. They played well. Like they did what they needed to do at first, but then once again, when then the game came, they started to blow it again. No surprise there. Arkansas, they played them tight the whole time. There was like 4 minutes in the first half and like 4 or 5 minutes in the second half where they didn't play great, and that's where Arkansas took advantage. I wasn't expecting to beat Arkansas, which I was fine with that loss. It would have been nice for seeding because we definitely would have been a 9. But yeah, we saw teams like LSU now who just went on to the finals, beat Arkansas, and I don't know, it's a lot. The SEC's got a lot of talent in the big dance, and I think Mizzou is up there with them for sure.
Yeah, it was, the Georgia game was tough just because Mizzou jumped out to, it was kind of back and forth. Mizzou was down early, and then they just put a stranglehold on the game, jumped up to, I think, a 10-point lead, and then the lead just evaporated, and that game was just, like you said, way too close for comfort. Kobe Brown was fantastic with 16 points. Tillman was a little quiet in that game, and it kind of carried it. We haven't seen – Tillman hasn't been himself these last few games, especially down the stretch. He sort of peaked in the TCU game, and I think he had 33 points. And he's been on a little bit of a downturn, and they're going to need him, especially on Saturday against Oklahoma. And, Tillman had 10 points and 6 boards against Georgia, and then didn't have a single rebound against Arkansas. And that's just – you're not going to win games when your star big man doesn't have a rebound.
That's such an impressive stat.
Yeah, he didn't have a single rebound against Arkansas. But like we've always talked about, Xavier Pinson is an X factor for this team, and he has not been right lately. He's such a hot and cold player. He's uber talented. And he led Mizzou in scoring against Georgia, but it was an incredibly inefficient 17 points he shot 30% from the field. That's not going to cut it. And so they're going to need Pinson and Tillman to get back to their mid-season form that they're at, because those are two guys that have, I don't want to say fallen off because they're still playing okay, but they're not playing up to their standards that they need to be. And it showed in the SEC tournament. there was one play Pinson pulled up with a very quick and ill-advised three, and I think Dave Matter might have tweeted it out, but he said is the moment he pulled that shot, Kwanzaa very quickly turned around and pointed at Drew Buggs and said, "Go get him," and subbed him out. And maybe there was a rift going on between Kwanzaa and Pinson. I don't think there is, but it does seem like he's got a little bit shorter of a leash than he did earlier in the year, because we've been seeing a lot more Drew Buggs towards the end of the season. He's been giving Mizzou decent backup guard minutes. So, we'll have to see how that pans out. But like I was saying, they need Pinson and Tillman to get back into their midseason form, because Missouri is not going to beat Oklahoma on Saturday, and certainly is not going to beat Gonzaga. I don't think they are anyways. Even with Pinson and Tillman, playing at their high level, they need to be on it, and they haven't been these last few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I saw an interview on Twitter earlier this week talking to Konzo, and I think the number one thing he said was Tillman needs to get his edge back, like he did against that TCU game in midseason when he was just putting up insane numbers. And at the end of the season, he definitely fell off. I mean, yeah, he was good. He made some big plays, but he wasn't putting up the numbers like he used to. And if we want a chance against Oklahoma, who's a very good team, I think probably the best, if not one of the best 8 seeds in the tournament, they're going to need Tillman to play well. They're going to need Pinson to shoot well, and they're going to need to play lockup D. Since their two main guys, Austin Reeves, Brady Manick, and we got our two main guys. You could say Drew Smith, Jeremiah Tillman. It's really going to come to those guys, because the point guard on Oklahoma, Harmon's out with COVID, so that frees up one thing. He was their second leading scorer. And if you can get Drew Smith to play lockdown D on Austin Reeves, and they're going to have to put Kobe, I think, on Brady Manick because he can shoot threes and Tillman can't guard outside the paint. I think they have a good matchup. Right now, I gave them a 35% chance to win, but now I'm going up to 50. It's a 50-50 game.
I mean, it's a classic 8-9 seed coin flip game.
I think it's going to be a shootout, but either way, I gave us less than a 1% chance of beating Gonzaga. So,
obviously, yeah. It's Gonzaga, but regardless of what awaits Mizzou in the second round, Mizzou hasn't won a tournament game in, I think, 9 years. It's either 9 or 12. I can't remember the number, but it's been a while since Mizzou's been able to win a tournament game.
4 first-round exits in a row. This would be the 5th year of losing the first round.
So, regardless of what awaits Mizzou in the round of 32 with Gonzaga, obviously this is a massive game for Mizzou. And, they need to find their, like you said, like Kwanzaa said with Tillman, he needs to find his edge. This team needs to find their edge. They haven't been right for a long time. They're sort of limping into the tournament. And this is an interesting matchup because both teams are limping into the tournament. OU has lost 5 of 6. Mizzou is 3-6 in their last 9. It's just both teams have been, and both teams were ranked in the top 10 at one point this year, and here they are in an 8-9 game. So it's definitely one of the more intriguing matchups of the first round for sure. I think the 8-9 matchups in general this year are very, very, very interesting. Between Mizzou, OU, Wisconsin, North Carolina, Loyola, Georgia Tech, and the other one is slipping my mind.
Bonaventure, LSU.
Yeah, Bonaventure, LSU. Yep. And so, it's the field of 60, 68. I guess it's soon to be 64 once this Michigan State UCLA game wraps up. But it's definitely an interesting field, and I think that Mizzou OU is a very, very intriguing matchup. You touched on it. Davion Harmon is out with COVID, OU's second leading scorer. And the matchup of these two teams, it predicates a lot on how Tillman and Manick match up with each other. Manick he will not be able to handle Tillman in the paint. and Manic has an advantage on him, being able to pull Tillman out of the paint defensively. So, it's a very, very tough game to figure out. And it's just, I'm not sure how long, because it's going to be a chess match between Long Kruger and Kwanzaa, especially in the paint with Tillman and Manic.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched a ton of Oklahoma basketball this year, and I've seen they're just like Mizzou. There's two sides of them. There's the Oklahoma that can go beat KU at KU, and there's the Oklahoma who loses to like Kansas State. I mean, it's just like two different teams, just like us. We lose to Mississippi State but beat Bama. But yeah, it's going to come down to coaching, and obviously Oklahoma's coaching staff has much more experience than ours in the tournament. And their team does too. I mean, yeah, you can say we're an experienced team, but one out of our 13 scholarship players has ever played in a tournament game. So I don't know how that's going to affect us. I know they're mentally ready. I know they're ready to go. I just hope it's just not the same old typical Mizzou up by 8 at halftime, up by 12 with 10 minutes left, and then lose by 15. That's just what I don't want. I mean, either way, win or lose, you got to look at it as a successful season, I would think. I mean, preseason, pick 10th in the SEC, and then you get to top 10 in the nation. I'd say that's successful. So, I mean, you never know, but I honestly don't have that high of hopes for them.
Well, it's in terms of how they match up with OU, and yeah, it's been a successful season so far, but obviously with what we've seen this team can do, you want a win in the tournament, and they have a great opportunity to do so against OU with Davion Harmon out. And the way they match up with OU is, I think, favorable to Mizzou. I don't think Manic can guard Tillman in the paint. I don't think OU has anyone really that can guard Tillman. OU does not have, again, they do not have someone for Jeremiah Tillman. If Jeremiah Tillman is on and playing the way we know he can, he will loudly introduce himself to the nation in this game, because this is the primetime TNT game on Saturday night, and OU does not have someone for Jeremiah Tillman. And if you look across the way at OU's roster, the leading scorer is Austin Reeves, who's a fantastic player, averaging almost 18 points a game. Mizzou has great defensive guards that they can throw at him. I mean, Drew Smith, I would assume, is going to be on him most of the night. And I just don't know. I just don't know. Mizzou has an answer for OU's guy. And not saying Tillman is Mizzou's guy. I don't think he's Mizzou's best player. I think Mizzou's most important and most reliable player has been Drew Smith all year. But the biggest mismatch of the day is Jeremiah Tillman in the paint. I'm very, very, very skeptical of who OU has for Jeremiah Tillman. I know I keep saying it, but I mean, every breakdown of this game I'm seeing it's predicating on Tillman versus Manic, how that matchup will play out.
That's true. Do you have Mizzou going on? Do you have to beating Oklahoma?
Yes, I think they're going to beat Oklahoma simply because I think they match up well with OU. And I felt that way before Harmon was knocked out with COVID. I think that Mizzou is more experienced. I think, Mizzou isn't playing great right now, but they're certainly in better form right now than OU. OU has not been right for a long, long time. Again, they've lost 5 of 6. They peaked after, they got up to number 7 in the country, and, they've lost, and none of the losses are particularly bad. I guess they lost to Kansas State, which is a terrible, terrible loss. Iowa State gave them a run for their money in the first round of the Big 12 tournament, and the KU game was close, but OU did not look good at all in that game. OU was down 20 at half. They came back and made it a game and ultimately lost by 7. But I mean, I watched the first half of that game, and OU was just horrendous in that first half. Couldn't score, couldn't defend. just a disaster of a half for OU. And, OU, 15 points and a half against Kansas. Kansas is a great defensive team, but you should not be scoring 15 points and a half against anyone. They're just in more. I think Mizzou will get it done just because they're in better form. I think they match up well with OU in terms of in the paint and having an answer for Austin Reeves. Because, Manic started against, just look at the KU game. KU didn't have McCormick, but they just didn't have an answer in the paint. Lightfoot and Wilson on KU combined for 20 points. And OU just does not have someone in the middle with because Manic has started more recently, and I don't know how teams are going to go about guarding Tillman because if you recall, one of the interesting things about how teams are maybe playing Tillman is going a little bit smaller, more athletic to be able to get up with him. Arkansas game, Vanover barely touched the court in the second half, and Jeremiah Tillman you didn't hear from him in that Arkansas game. And that was a very winnable game for Mizzou also. They had a lead. They had a 1-point lead pretty late in the game. And, how long Kruger tries to guard Tillman is what I'm interested in because I don't think Brady Manic can guard him. And I imagine he'll take a deep dive into the Arkansas tape. And now, granted, OU doesn't have Justin Smith walking through the door to guard Tillman because he did a great job on Tillman. But, Kruger's a great coach.
But I was looking at Twitter, and I'm seeing some tweets saying Cade Cunningham tested positive.
No way.
It's okay. So like a half hour ago, one of my friends sent our whole group chat. I was like, hey, there's someone saying that Cade tested positive. And I was like, all right, well, I don't believe you because no one on Twitter's tweeted it. But there's no verified people tweeting it, but there's I've seen 5-6 tweets saying there's rumors swarming that Cade Cunningham is COVID. But I'm not going to believe that until I see someone verify tweet it, but that would be huge.
That is massive.
That changes. I would put Liberty. I'd take Liberty over Oklahoma State because Liberty is a good team.
Yeah, that's massive news. I haven't really seen any verified accounts on Twitter, but I am seeing some rumors that Cade Cunningham might have COVID. Where are you seeing that?
Just random tweets.
Man, that is.
There's no way that's true because no way these people would know before someone verified would. There's no way that's true. But if it is true, that's a game changer.
Yeah, that's a massive game changer, and that doesn't directly relate to Mizzou, but that is massive news in terms of the tournament, just because of how great Oklahoma State's playing, and that's the best player in the tournament. Cunningham, he'll be the number one pick, and he's the best player in the country. You can say Luka Garza won Player of the Year. No, Cade Cunningham is the best player in the country. But that's a massive impact, and I hope that's not true because he's very, very fun to watch.
Yeah, I want to see him. I just want to see him play. He's so good.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. And, he's the type of player that can carry a team. And Mizzou, tying it back to Mizzou needs a guy that can step up and carry them and they have guys that are capable of it. And, they haven't been able to do so, at least of late. We've seen different guys carry them, Drew Smith, Pinson, Tillman. I don't think anyone's arguing those are their best three players. But if they're able to get, just a solid outing from Tillman and Pinson, I think they'll be able to handle OU. Not with ease, but they'll be able to win on Saturday. I know you're not as hopeful as I am, but I think that the way OU's playing, and they just have not been good for so long, and they've completely felt. And it's almost like they haven't hit their upturn a little bit because Mizzou hit that awful losing streak. They were number 10, collapsed, fell out of the top 25, and then came back a little bit, won against Florida. OU is still on that downturn and hasn't come out of it yet, and this is a bad time to still be on a downturn.
They haven't had a good win since – they beat West Virginia on February 13th. February 13th. They've had 2 wins since, and both are against Iowa State. Every other game's a loss. So, yeah, they're –
Granted, the Big 12 is a much tougher conference than the SEC. I'll gladly concede that. But I will say this. SEC is a much tougher conference than people give it credit for. And it's our next topic. We can talk about, how the committee viewed the SEC, because I think that the SEC got a lot of disrespect. And that was sort of a topic on Mizzou Twitter and just SEC Twitter in general, how lowly some of these teams were seeded. LSU getting an 8 seed seemed egregious to me.
Could have been a 6, maybe.
Missouri is a 9 seed. They aren't playing great right now, but it seemed pretty low. And then you keep going on the list. Arkansas a 3, Alabama a 2 seed. I get that. Tennessee was the one that I thought was overseeded. I think a 5 seed is pretty rich for Tennessee, but I think it was the seeding of Missouri and LSU and Ole Miss being left out. I don't think Ole Miss should have been in, but I'm just saying in general, the committee sent a loud message about how they felt about the SEC this year.
Yeah, I was pissed when I saw Selection Sunday. I hated seeing Mizzou in that first region. I didn't want to see him that early because I wanted the anticipation to build up. Never got that. And I remember because I saw Gonzaga pop up, and then I saw Oklahoma pop up, and I was like, please, no, don't be Mizzou.
Yeah, I think that was everyone.
And I was like, horrible draw.
Yeah, bad draw for Mizzou.
I think Mizzou should have been an 8, and they should have been a hell of a lot closer to a 7 than a 9. LSU, I do think they should have been higher, but they also have very few quad 1 wins, so I understand why they're a 9 or an 8, whatever they are.
But let's say this. What if LSU beats Alabama and they're the SEC champions? Is a 1-point difference in a game against Alabama? Because if LSU wins the SEC, I bet you they end up being a 5 or 6 seed. Is a 1-point difference in a coin flip game against Alabama, where they played great, the difference between being a 5 seed and an 8 seed? I don't think so. I think LSU is criminally underseeded.
I'll never understand these. Even with college football too. I don't know how they do it, because I saw pictures of Mizzou's resume stacked up against Florida's resume. We're better in every category, yet we get a 9, they get a 7. So I don't know.
Florida straight up.
And we beat them straight up. I don't get it, because Florida plays Virginia Tech tomorrow. I think that's the first game tomorrow. But I'd way rather play Virginia Tech than Oklahoma, I think. I don't know.
I think Virginia Tech's winning that game. I think in terms of – now, people are complaining about Mizzou's draw. I love our first round draw because I think OU is a very, very winnable game, and I think they'll get it done tomorrow or Saturday. Sorry. I think they will get it done, and I think they match up well with them, and I like that first round draw. But when you're an 8-9 seed, you're matched up with a 1 seed, and that was the 1 seed that you just didn't want to be next to because it's Gonzaga. And I like our chances against Michigan, who seems to be pretty vulnerable heading into the tournament. Or even Illinois, a team that they already beat. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how the rest of the tournament pans out. But I do think that SEC in general, especially LSU and Mizzou, got very, very underseeded, and it's clear. I think it's clear that some of the metrics have not liked Mizzou all year long. And I think it's clear that the committee values, those metrics versus quad 1 wins, winning those games. Because at the end of the day, Mizzou beat Mizzou has beaten Illinois, they've beaten Alabama, they've beaten I think they've beaten 9 teams that are in the tournament field already. So, and they have their fair share of bad losses, but still, I thought 9 seed was very, very low. I thought I expected 8 or 9 line, but I was expecting an 8 seed, I would say, and 9 seed was pretty surprising. And to be put next to Gonzaga was also tough. And, some of it's on Mizzou. If they finish the season remotely strong, they're a 6 seed, I bet, 5 or 6 seed, and they didn't, and that's on them.
Maybe it's the year. This is the year where the butler of whenever Gordon Hayward was there goes to the Final Four. Mizzou beats Oklahoma, beats Gonzaga, just goes and kills Virginia, beats Iowa. I mean, a little unrealistic here, but that's what sucks about.
That's what you love about March, because anything can happen. And now, correct me if I'm wrong here, Chris. You told me you are going to Indianapolis for the game, right?
I'm no longer going to. I was going to, and then I decided. I had a lot of schoolwork to do, so I decided not to. But also, I didn't want to go buy a ticket and maybe watch Mizzou lose and be pissed off the whole drive home. So I'm actually not going anymore, but I wish I was.
Well, I am going, and I'm currently planning. I'm going with actually a couple of your high school buddies. We're going, and we're planning on staying until Monday, barring a Mizzou win, and going to the Gonzaga game too, because, our logic is, like I just said, it's March, anything can happen. If Mizzou beats Gonzaga and I opt out of going to that game, I had an opportunity to go and I don't go, you're sick with yourself. I don't think Missouri is going to beat Gonzaga.
Even if they do, whatever.
Yeah. It's and so it's the right to play Gonzaga, which is, that's what the winner of this OU Mizzou game gets. It's an opportunity to pull off one of the greatest upsets in tournament history. Obviously, it's not, UMBC over Virginia level greatest upsets, but this Gonzaga team is unbelievably good. Everyone and their mother's picking them to win the tournament. And it's an opportunity. This weekend is a very, very big opportunity for Mizzou. Again, I've said it so many times. They match up well with OU. This is a very, very winnable game for them. And at this point, and I was talking I have a group chat with some of my other buddies here at Mizzou. We're talking about the draw in the tournament. I feel like at this point where, all right, we screwed up, we're an 8-9 seed. If we win this game, you might as well just play Gonzaga and go for a legendary upset. I know you would probably prefer to play Michigan or Baylor. You would have preferred any other 1 seed. Yeah. But, at this point, you're probably going to be a sizable underdog to whatever 1 seed you play. You might as well just go for the upset and go for the biggest upset of the tournament damn near. So, they match up with Gonzaga. No one matches up well with Gonzaga. They're so deep, so talented. I know I'm a square for thinking this, but I don't know who beats Gonzaga. I think they'll win the tournament.
Hopefully Iowa, because I have Iowa winning it all.
Well, in terms of Iowa, don't sleep that first round matchup against Grand Canyon. That's scary. Grand Canyon has some big guys that can bang in the post with Garza, and I do like Iowa a lot, but Iowa cannot take Grand Canyon lightly. But back to Mizzou. In terms of, this is a massive, massive game for Mizzou on Saturday in terms of not even just this team, but just trajectory of the program and, progress in the Cuonzo Martin era. Cuonzo has taken Mizzou to the tournament twice. This was the second time, came up short the last time. Last couple of years been riddled with injuries and just weird years. And then finally it's all come together. They're in the tournament again. And it's an opportunity for Mizzou to make a statement about progress that they're making under Quanzo Martin and get that first tournament win in almost a decade. And a loss to OU would be crushing to the program just because this year has been so great in terms of everything finally came together for the senior class.
We finally got noticed.
Yeah, they finally got noticed. They're finally back on the map. And, this is your last run with this group of players. They're probably moving on after the year. And, this is their last run with this group. And we have no clue what the roster is going to look like next year. I mean, it's going to be full of transfers. The roster next year, and obviously Kwanzaa he'll bring in guys and they'll be fine. But this roster for next year is pretty barren. And this almost seems like a last stand. And a loss would just be crushing for the pro, and a win would just be a fantastic sign of progress under Kwanzaa. And after it's been a season of peaks and valleys. And I think after the peaks that this season has had, anything short of a win against Oklahoma would make this season pretty disappointing, I think.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've been a Mizzou fan probably a lot longer than you. And I'm expecting the worst, but I hope they do win. I really do. I think they can win. I'm not going to say I think they will win, but I think they can win. And like you said earlier, this is a game changer for the program. If we win this game, cough, cough, transfers Cameron Fletcher, it's like wins like that will get those guys here. And like Konzo hasn't been able to do that in the past with the big-time transfers, big-time St. Louis recruits. So maybe if they do go on a little run, you can see a little recruiting change in a bright future rather than a pretty stagnant one.
Yeah, and again, I didn't even think about that part. I mean, there's a lot riding on that too in terms of making progress with recruits. If you're able to show that you're making progress as a program, a tournament win gets you more on the map, and then you're able to get more of those guys. And that helps with recruiting immensely. So, I hope that they do get it done. I mean, obviously just because, I go to Mizzou, I love this team and I want them to do well, but just in terms of the trajectory of the program, a win on Saturday would be massive. And then if you win on Saturday, you're playing Gonzaga on Monday. I mean, at that point, you're playing with house money. And, let's go try and pull an upset and see what happens. And I'm excited to be there. I think damn near everyone in the country can attest that they missed March Madness, and everyone's so excited it's back. And I'm excited that Mizzou is in the tournament. I'm excited that they have an opportunity to put themselves a bit more on the map and carry themselves into the offseason with a win against OU, who they match up well with. And OU, though, I think that OU is a bit stronger offensively than Mizzou. Neither team will run up and down the court in terms of tempo. Mizzou isn't necessarily slow, but I think they'll try and slow this game down. They don't want to turn this into a track meet. I think it's less likely to become a track meet, especially with Harmon out. So I think that the tempo of this game will favor Mizzou. I think that the rebounding and in the post will favor Mizzou. And I think that Mizzou will have answers for OU's strengths, which is their guard play. Austin Reeves, he was one of the best players in the conference. He's one of the best players in college basketball. And you know what? Drew Smith is one of the best defenders in college basketball. And he's a phenomenal perimeter defender. I'm sure OU will try and get screens and switches and try and get different matchups. But, a lot of this game is on Drew Smith too. We've hardly talked about him, and I'm kind of surprised it took us this long to get to him. But Drew Smith, and obviously he's been the most consistent player on the team. I trust him, but his defense has never been needed more than it is right now against Reeves. And he'll match up with Reeves, and I think he'll be able to hang with him. I think he's a little bit more athletic than him. And was up there for SEC Defensive Player of the Year behind Herb Jones. So Mizzou has the horses to play with OU, and they have a great opportunity here. this would be nothing short of a blown opportunity for Mizzou if they're not able to get this done on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen Drew Smith be so consistent throughout this whole year. So, I mean, I'm expecting him to play well. I've never seen a night where he's not playing good on defense. Maybe he's lacking scoring a little bit, but he's always there on the defensive side of the ball. If he does lock down Austin Reeves, which I think he can and I think he will, there is a very good chance that Mizzou does win this game and go on to play the best team in the country on Monday. It's time will tell. I'm already nervous, and we don't play for another 48 hours, and I'm already nervous about it. But I've been looking forward to this game since November. Whenever I talk to my family about it, I'm like, trust me, Mizzou's going to be good this year. Just watch. Oh, no, they're not. They're never going to be good, blah, blah, blah. Proved them wrong already. So they are a good team. I've been waiting for this for 5 months. And we are 48 hours away, and I'm so excited to watch this team play March Madness. We're finally back in the dance.
Yeah, and before the season, expectations are pretty low, and then we realized how good this team can be. And then after they beat Oregon, I remember after they beat Oregon, I was like, oh, this team can make the tournament. And now it's finally here. You always kind of, the tournament, and, it's down the road. Well, it's here. And this is where this is where, you make your money. This is where you take care of business. And, it's finally here. They will, and they'll be playing in Lucas Oil on primetime on TNT. It's a coin flip game, 8-9 seed, Oklahoma against Mizzou, old Big 12 matchup. It has all the storylines you need. And I think that Quanzo Martin also knows what's at stake. And now, granted, he's not, and this is not, don't mistake this for me calling for Quanzo Martin's head, but he has an activator in his contract that since Mizzou made this tournament, he's not, he cannot be fired for, I think, until 2023 without cause. So, again, not that I want Quanzo gone. I love Quanzo, and I think he's a great coach, but a lot is riding on this game for Mizzou.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't even know what to say. I just been waiting for this for so long, and it's finally here. It's been, I think they said 700 something days since we even had a March Madness, and I'm just happy I don't have class tomorrow, so I can wake up and sit on my couch and watch basketball from 11 to 11, because that's exactly what I'm going to be doing.
Oh yeah, I don't know who isn't going to do that. I mean, that's what everyone grew up doing, and the old days of when you're in high school, streaming the games under your desk and on your laptop and all that stuff. It's just a great time, and I'm excited that Missouri's involved. And when we talked to Mitchell Smith, he sort of touched on it. He's like, these are my brothers. We're very, very close as a team. Love playing with these guys. And I hope that this team's very, very close, and I think that matters in the tournament. And they know what's at stake. It's probably a lot of their last ride together, and it's the tournament, so that doesn't really matter because all teams are going all out trying to win the game. But it has to matter a little bit in terms of what's at stake for each team. I just hope that they're able to go out on a good note, because these seniors and this whole team deserves better than a first-round exit. And I think they'll take care of business on Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, for them, it's win or go home. And it's not, for the seniors, it's not win and come back to Mizzou and train for next season. Literally win or go home. There is, I mean, I guess there could be a next year, but there most likely isn't going to be a next year, and this is most likely going to be their last couple games in a Mizzou Tigers uniform, and I really hope they take that, use that to their advantage, and hopefully get a win Saturday.
Yeah, and this one of the big things from this team is they just have struggled in terms of protecting leads and just kind of folding under pressure. It's been very, very disappointing throughout the year, and look no further than Mizzou jumped out to a 10-point lead against Arkansas, and then here comes a 16-0 run, and they kind of fold. They can't be folding in the tournament. if they do what they've done a lot in the past and just fold under pressure, they're going home on Saturday night. And that's where Kwanzaa needs to properly use his timeouts. He needs his point guard, Drew Smith and Xavier Pinson, to settle things down and handle the pressure. And I don't know that they'll be able to do that. I hope they are, but they're out of strikes. You can't just say, oh, they folded against Georgia. Let's get ready for the next game. This is it. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Bottom line is, Chris, you can attest, and we've said it so many times already, so much is riding on this game for Mizzou, and so much is riding on this tournament for Mizzou. Saturday night, prime time in Lucas Oil Stadium against the Sooners. And, it's here. They're in the tournament, and it's do or die. And, I'm just excited as you are, Chris.
Yeah, survive and advance.
Survive and advance.
Survive and advance.
Yeah, that's all that March is about. So we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Be sure to listen, subscribe, retweet us on Twitter, check us out. I can be found on Twitter at Nate_Sanch77. Chris, what's your Twitter handle?
Twitter handle is CDG928.
So yeah, on there you can catch us tweeting our thoughts about the Mizzou game, any other teams you may like. I'm from Dallas, so I have my own thoughts spewed out there about different Dallas teams. But we're very Mizzou centric. I'll have my thoughts out there on the game. I'll be at the game. I'll give some content from the game, and also check out our podcast account at Brawl Mizzou. And again, check us out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. So with that, Chris, any more thoughts?
Not really. Just go Tigers.
Well, thank you guys for listening. As always, I'm Nate Sanchez. My co-host is Chris George, and March is finally here. Mizzou, Oklahoma, Saturday night, prime time. Go Tigers.